For phase one of this project, I divided Flatwoods Park up into 4 different ecosystems. 55% of Flatwoods was a temperate deciduous forest made up of oak, hickory, maple, and beech. 15% was just lawn made up of native and planted grasses. And 20% was meadows made up of mainly goldenrod. 10% of the park was also human-made ecosystems that included parking lots, gazebos, bathroom facilities, storage facilities, and access roads. When it comes to the juxtaposition at Flatwoods, I noted that there was a good strip of climax forest running from the north to the south of the park. This climax forest kind of insulated the young successional forest and was also bordered by some of the meadow ecosystems. Some of the most juxtaposed areas I found were by the access road next to the Blue Trail and in the drone field. Also, I saw deer tracks in every ecosystem except for the human ecosystem and the lawns. With this juxtaposition in mind, I feel that bird and bat boxes as well as trail cams can help inform our management decisions. A healthy indicator species that I saw were some of the exceptionally large and old oak canopy trees that bordered some of the meadows. Off the bat, this indicates that this is an oak hickory climax forest and that we need to manage for succession. In the young meadow forests, I saw some sycamores and tulip trees, which are indicators of young succession. Additionally, I noted eastern red cedar and sumac as indicators of biodiversity, as I feel like I don't really see that at other parks, and therefore I'd like to manage for them and protect them. For me, the 2 largest unhealthy indicator species were the abhorrent amount of Asian bush honeysuckle along the Blue Trail and the deer population. There are deer tracks and deer droppings all over the park, and as you can tell, around the Blue Trail, there's really not that much undergrowth regeneration. Additionally, with the diversity of stratifications present at Flatwoods, I think that a complete avian inventory might be beneficial in understanding the health of that ecosystem. This opens the window for us to work with the Sassafras Audubon Society potentially. Okay, so what do I want to do to help manage Flatwoods? The number 1 species of interest to the county park staff is uncommon grassland birds. I'd like to take a landscape management approach and install bird and bat boxes along the meadow of the Blue Trail as well as the drone field. Additionally, I'd like to add trail cams to the edge of the drone field along with the edge of the property next to the agricultural land. This will just help me get a better picture of what's going in and out of the forest. Next, I'd like to take a species management approach by removing all the Asian bush honeysuckle. Although this seems like a daunting task, I have an idea of how I can involve stakeholders to help get the job done. Finally, I'd like to tackle the monoculture of goldenrod meadows by introducing some controlled burns. Although this is a daunting task that would probably take a couple years, I'd like to do this to see if I could regenerate a couple sections to oak hickory forests and cater other sections to pollinator seed mixes. For fragmentation in this park, I used a map that showed the perforation in red, the domination in blue, and the internal fragmentation in green. With a park of this size, I believe it's better to focus on the matrix rather than the fragmentation. As we can see from this map, Flatwoods is poorly connected to the other woodlots nearby. As we zoom out with Flatwoods on the right side of the picture, there's a decent amount of wooded area on the left, which I assume is privately owned land. Also slightly out of frame to the right, there is McCormick's Creek State Park. I believe connecting some of this matrix would be greatly beneficial to the ecological health of the park, although my management philosophies and experiences are pertinent to on-the-ground resource management. When it comes to the potential corridors of Flatwoods Park, the power line cuts at the north and south of the park are definitely going to be potential corridors, along with that access road in the north of the park. These corridors are going to connect deer populations from the agricultural land surrounding the park into the forested areas. We can reduce the barriers and gaps to these corridors by foresting some of the agricultural land near the park. In my opinion, I think Flatwoods is a source patch for invasive plant species and deer, and a sink patch for young undergrowth regeneration. My ecosystem management proposal is to remove the invasive species around the park, along with encourage undergrowth regeneration. Also, I'd like to cater towards the uncommon grassland birds, along with pollinator species. The primary stakeholder is Monroe County Parks and Recreation. If you want to make any modifications to this park, you'll definitely have to contact them first. I'd like to connect with the Ellettsville Boys and Girls Club, as it's only about a 5-minute drive to the park. I believe most of the children and families that attend that Boys and Girls Club are aware of Flatwoods, if not frequent users of that park. I believe it's best to act locally. The Sycamore Land Trust often goes to public schools to give talks about the importance of our public lands and to spark an interest in nature in the community. I believe if I arranged a workshop at the Ellettsville Boys and Girls Club for the Sycamore Land Trust to come through and talk to the kids, it could potentially make the public more open to my management considerations. I'd also like to involve Monroe County identify and remove invasive species. I've had first-hand experience with their invasive species removal workshops. For my integrated resource management class, I have drafted workshops where MC Iris would engage with public landowners to help them understand how to remove invasive species on their own land. If I adapted some of those programs to work at Flatwoods, I believe I could get the public involved with the invasive species removal. Furthermore, the public could use what they've learned at the workshop and take it to their own land. Finally, after all the management considerations have been done, I feel like it'd be best to manage this site with the Nature Conservancy's 5S system. I want to add bird boxes and trail cams to several locations throughout the park. The green in the map represents the bird boxes and the red represents the trail cams. I bordered them next to the young successional forests and meadows. I want to remove all the Asian bush honeysuckle on the blue trail with the help of MC Iris and the public. Finally, to do some controlled burns on the goldenrod meadows, we would need to spray that meadow with some sort of herbicide. After we have a field of dead plant matter, we can burn it. Then, after about a year, go in and disc the soil. The section on the right, I'd like to try to regenerate to oak hickory, since it's closer to some of the mature forest. And on the left, we could spread a pollinator seed mix and see the effects of that.